The learning objective is to unpack the extended metaphor. You can provide students with a do now task, which is to answer the following questions about a metaphor. What is the tenor? What is the vehicle? And what are the grounds? So some specific learning objectives is to define and identify an extended metaphor, analyse how an extended metaphor functions throughout a narrative, explain the deeper meaning and thematic significance conveyed through an extended metaphor, identify potential extended metaphors in a given story, and discuss the effectiveness of using extended metaphors in storytelling. So, ask the students, what is a metaphor? A metaphor is a direct comparison between two unlike things without using like or as, which we would know as a simile. A metaphor can be broken down into three components: the tenor, the vehicle, and the grounds. So what are the tenor, vehicle, and grounds? Now, usually I introduce this lesson in Year 7, but it can be used for later years as well. So, the tenor is the subject of the metaphor. It is the literal thing, person or idea being described. Think of it as the underlying meaning that you want to convey, which might be an abstract noun. The vehicle, now this is the image or the thing used to describe the tenor. It's the figurative term you use to bring the tenor to life. The vehicle should have some associations that help illuminate the tenor. Now the tenor usually, but not always, comes at the start of a sentence with the vehicle that follows. So, what are the grounds? These are the shared characteristics, similarities or commonalities between the tenor and the vehicle. It is the basis of the comparison, the qualities of the vehicle that are being attributed to the tenor. Understanding the grounds helps explain why the metaphor works. Now, in an extended metaphor, there will be a range of different shared characteristics or similarities. For a metaphor to actually work, it does need at least two shared characteristics. So now we go into some examples of metaphors. Start off with the metaphor that is highlighted in pink. Her laughter was sunshine. So the tenor is her laughter, the vehicle is sunshine. Now the similarities are expressed in the grounds. Both are bright, warm, joyful, uplifting, and make you feel good. So there are more than two grounds, which makes this a successful and effective metaphor. Now, you could get the students to look at the following metaphors, identifying the tenor, vehicle, and grounds. These are: the internet is an information superhighway, his words were daggers, and life is a roller coaster. I'll allow you to analyse these three examples with your class and come up with the various different grounds. So, what is an extended metaphor? Now, as previously explained, an extended metaphor is developed over several lines of writing. Instead of it being a brief one-time comparison, an extended metaphor draws the comparison out, exploring multiple points of similarities between the tenor and the vehicle. It does allow for a more complex and nuanced exploration of the underlying idea. And it is to create a very vivid and specific picture in the reader or listener's mind, making abstract ideas more concrete and relatable. By comparing something unfamiliar to something familiar, it will spark the imagination and make the concept more tangible. So I have written the start of a story called Sammy's Race, which I'm going to read for you now. If you would like this excerpt, then you can email me at jacquelinethorogood@gmail.com. So before we analyse the story for extended metaphors, I'm going to read to you Sammy's race. Sammy stood at the starting line, his heart a trapped bird, fluttering against his ribs. The track ahead wasn't just asphalt, it was the winding path of his ambition, each curve a new challenge, each straightaway a moment to gather strength. The other racers, sleek machines of confidence, revved their engines, their eyes like focused headlights piercing the distance. Sammy's own engine, though smaller, hummed with a quiet determination. The starting gun fired a sharp crack that released them all. Sammy stumbled at first, his wheels spinning momentarily in doubt. The initial stretch was a steep incline, a relentless climb against the gravity of his past failures. He saw others surge ahead, their momentum fueled by years of practice and expectation. They were swift currents carving through the water of the race with ease. But Sammy was a different kind of vehicle. He was a sturdy, reliable engine, built for endurance, not just for speed. He found his rhythm, a steady pulse that matched the beat of his own will. The middle section of the race was a winding maze, demanding careful navigation, each turn a decision, each obstacle a test of his focus. He saw some racers falter, their engines sputtering under the pressure, veering off course into the dusty margins of giving up. As the final lap began, the finish line appeared in the distance, a beacon of hope. Sammy's engine, now warmed and powerful, responded with a surge of energy. The track flattened, offering a chance to unleash his built-up strength. He wasn't the fastest, but his consistent effort had carried him through. He overtook a few tired competitors. Their initial burst of speed now faded. Crossing the finish line wasn't a sudden explosion of victory, but a quiet sense of arrival. The journey, the race itself had reshaped him. He had navigated the difficult terrain of his own doubts and emerged, not necessarily in first place, but having run his own race, a testament to his perseverance. So you are going to ask these questions to the students and give them some time to annotate the text and explore their own ideas. So, what is the literal situation in the story? And what other ideas or concepts might the race represent? So, the literal situation is the race itself, involving Sammy and the other competitors. The race might represent ambition. And what comparisons do you notice the narrator making? For example, the heart is compared to a trapped bird. Now, what you really want to do is get students to explore the grounds of two metaphors from the story, or analyse one extended metaphor. So you need to ask them, what is the similarity or the similarities between the tenor and the vehicle? Now, I'm going to analyse two of the extended metaphors. The first one is that life is a seemingly endless highway stretching before us, a ribbon of a sort unwinding towards a distant horizon. So the tenor of this would be life, and the vehicle would be a seemingly endless highway. So, what are the similarities then between life and a seemingly endless highway? Well, they both seem endless and quite long. Just as a highway can seem to sort of stretch on without end, life also feels like a continuous journey. They both also have their own path and direction. The highway represents the path or course of one's life, moving forward from the present towards the future. They're both unwinding, so the act of the asphalt ribbon unwinding suggests the unfolding of time and experiences. And they both have an horizon. The distant horizon symbolises future goals, possibilities, or the ultimate end of life. Another extended metaphor is the way each of us is a vehicle, our chassis unique, our engines humming with the potential of dreams. So the tenor of this metaphor is each individual person, and the vehicle is actually a vehicle, a car or a truck. The ground, so what this metaphor equates individuals, so this metaphor equates individuals to different types of vehicles, highlighting their unique makeup and driving force. So what is similar between the tenor and the vehicle? Well, the vehicle as a whole, it represents the individual's physical being and capabilities for navigating life. The unique chassis, so the chassis is a foundational structure of a vehicle and can symbolise the individual's unique fundamental makeup, their personalities and their inherent qualities. They also reflect, they also show engines humming with the potential of dreams. So the engine is the power source of the vehicle and represents the inner drive, aspirations, and potential that motivates each person. Humming with the potential of dreams suggests a latent energy and direction fueled by hopes and ambitions. So this slide addresses the different aspects of the metaphor and what it represents. So you could give them the different aspects of the metaphor and ask them to explain what the metaphor represents. So the different aspects of the metaphor are the racetrack, the starting line, the racers, Sammy's engine, the incline, the swift currents, the winding maze, sputtering engines or veering off course, the finish line, the crossing the finish line, the journey, the race itself. So, for example, the racetrack could represent the path of life, ambition, or a specific goal. And the starting line, or Sammy's engine, represents his inner drive, his determination, and his capabilities. By this point, you would have done quite a lot of analysing. So now it's time for the students to be creative and come up with their own extended metaphors. So try to get them to come up with maybe 3 or 5 different extended metaphors. Or you could briefly discuss some examples of extended metaphors in other stories, such as life is a highway, the classroom is a stage. You can brainstorm potential extended metaphors they could use in their own writing. So here are some ideas for extended metaphors. Now you can show them this slide if they are struggling with an idea, then this might trigger some interesting thoughts. So we have time is a river or an ocean, exploring the constant flow, currents, eddies, depth, and how we navigate or are carried by it. Emotions are weather, or the mind is a garden or a forest. Learning is a journey or a climb, or life is a game or sport. You can go over this in more detail when explaining the examples to students. You could now get the students to develop one extended metaphor by exploring the multiple grounds that one metaphor can give. It has to be a strong metaphor, otherwise it will not support a lot of grounds. So life is a highway. So here I've come up with 3 examples for life being like a highway. Life is like a highway full of unexpected twists and turns. Life is like a highway and I'm just trying to navigate the map. Life is like a highway, a long and winding road with many destinations. And so I've done the same with a second example of life is like a stage. Actually, it's the classroom is like a stage. The classroom is like a stage where the teacher takes on the role of the director. The classroom is like a stage, and each student has their own unique part to play. The classroom is like a stage where some students eagerly step into the spotlight. So you can now get students to write their own narrative story and include an extended metaphor. Now, I gave my class 2 statement titles in the form of a simile, and they had to choose one title to develop into a narrative story. So the first one is Life is like a roller coaster, or students could choose the title The Classroom is like a stage. Now this will lend itself to writing an extended metaphor. Now, some students didn't know where to start with this, so I came up with some sentence starters for them. These are life, a sudden drop, the climb felt endless, looping through the years, unexpected twists arrived, another thrilling peak. And I did the same for the other title, The Classroom is Like a Stage. I provided them with these sentence starters. The classroom, a stage set for learning. Stepping in, it was always showtime. Mrs. Davison, the daily director, good use of alliteration there. Maya faced the classroom stage, notes trembling. Quiz time, the tense classroom drama. Knowing that some students really do struggle with vocabulary, I provided also some ambitious vocabulary for Life is like a roller coaster and the classroom is like a stage. I've just given them 5 words, for example, exhilarating, euphoric, abysmal, cataclysmic, and turbulent. You could go over these words and get students to provide examples of the words in the correct context. I also did the same for the classroom is like a stage, so they could use the words cluttered, welcoming, sterile, inspiring, or drab. And finally, provide them with the success criteria. So we're looking at the wider components rather than just the extended metaphor. So they need imaginative content, in which they consider a particular narrative style. For example, cyclical, a flashback, a flash forward. Avoid cliches like dream sequences. Make use of the mountain arc or Freytag's pyramid, You could plan this before you start writing. Use ambitious language, ensure you can use an extended metaphor for one paragraph. Make sure to include Mr. Soap devices, so metaphor, repetition, sibilance, or simile, onomatopoeia, alliteration and personification. Make sure that students proofread their work for spelling, punctuation and grammar. That's really important, and can help them gain marks by going through the entire story at the end and making use of creative as well as practical paragraphing.